In thinking about nanotechnology today, what's most important is understanding where it leads. What nanotechnology will look like after we reach the Assembler breakthrough. Namaste. This is Karuna Singh. Welcomes you all on my YouTube channel, Knowledge. It's a pleasure to have Professor Himadri B. Bhuttar sir, former Professor of Physics and Nanoscience, School of Physical Sciences and Special Center for Nanoscience, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It is so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for coming, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, sir. So, what is your current field of research? Could you please share some information?
See, I'm working on several aspects of nanoscience. My specialization is in the area of synthesis of new nanomaterials and their characterization.
Okay.
And then on to specific applications of this thing in collaboration mode. Okay, so the nanomaterials, they span the wide range, starting from quantum dots to regular nanomaterials to hybrid nanomaterials to very sophisticated, conjugates as per the requirement of the applications. We make them and characterize them and make them optimized for a specified use. That is the whole focus at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how long you have been working in this project?
See, I have a big, long background in the nanoscience. See, it dates back to something like 1990, where we started our initial work on nanoscience and nanotechnology. And that is the typical time when nanoscience was emerging in the country as a topic, as a new topic. And a lot of people got interested in this new field, and we were one of them in that area. So at that point of time, the slow actually working on one platform concept. So that was slowly developed a little later towards 2010 or 2010, so typically that time, where the nanoscience as a separate discipline started to emerge in the country. Okay. So we also started the Special Center for Nanoscience program in Jawaharlal Nehru University in 2010. And I was the founding chairperson of the center, and since then I've been working with the center until now. And the whole idea was again to make it a platform for people working in different aspects of nanomaterials, biological sciences, medical sciences, physical sciences, material science. All of them come together, work on a common platform, develop materials and use it for the specific applications. That was the whole idea.
Yeah.
And on that format, we continue to work for more than 20 years now, 20 years plus now, and a lot of new materials have been developed and a lot of new applications have been successfully done, which is discussed in due course. Okay. Yeah.
So you have been associated with this project for a long time.
Yeah.
So if I talk about nanotechnology, what is its scope?
See, nanotechnology, you can see it in the following way. Nanotechnology is a optimization of the existing technology using new materials. See, if you look at any application in our day-to-day life, for example, you take your mobile phone or laptop, you need to recharge it every second day or maybe every day.
Absolutely.
Why do you need to do that? That's because the battery that is supporting the electronics there has a limited capacity. It gets discharged over a period of 24 hours, typically, maybe 48 hours. So the question that arises here is, can we have an advanced battery which can support this device for an extended period of time? Let's say we need to charge it only once a week. Why not that?
Yeah.
So that's where the bottleneck in the material science deficiency comes in, because the existing material that we're using for battery design and storage has a limited capacity.
Yes.
So that capacity enhancement can be done through tweaking the technology using nanomaterials as input, and then the objective can be achieved very easily. Okay, and then realize that in nanoscience we are not doing anything new. It's basically optimizing what has already been done in the past or what we are doing at this present. by going to nano platform, we will be able to increase the efficiency, reduce the cost, and the reliability of and increase the reliability of the device, instrument, and the technology.
But still, there are so many people who don't know about nanotechnology still.
See, that is a critical area where you need to work and to increase the capacity building, because there are two problems there. One is some people are completely, of course, ignorant about nanotechnology, and there is another section of scientists which have only partial knowledge about nanotechnology. So, in order to bridge that gap, we need to increase the capacity building through training programs and give them the working knowledge so that they are able to comfortably work in this field with sufficient amount of confidence.
Yes.
Which will help them in building their career, also in applying it to their regular everyday work activities, making new products basically. Okay. That's what is required. Capacity building is the word.
Okay. Yeah. So, how nanotechnology is going to change market in upcoming years?
See, nanotechnology, whether we realize it or not, has already started entering into our day-to-day life. Yeah. In some way or other. There are some areas where nanotechnology will definitely play a significant role, particularly in the context of India, because India being a developing country, there are three domains where we need to have focus. One is agriculture, second one is energy, third is healthcare, sanitation. Okay. See, all these three fields, we need to enhance our capability because of the huge population. This big population in the city, living in the rural areas, we do not have access to modern technology in terms of accessing medical benefits, etc. I mean, potable drinking water becomes a problem there.
Yes.
So, nanotechnology platform can be very useful in solving many of these problems. For instance, I can give you an example. Agriculture. Agriculture, you say typically, even now, there is a lot of wastage in the present mode of farming. Absolutely. For instance, we take urea. Every, the acre of land requires some 30 to 40 kilo of urea for growing paddy. Out of that, only 40% is utilized by the plant. Other 60% is a runoff with the water to the surface water bodies, lakes, rivers, ponds, etc., or to underground water, which recharges our wells and all these things. So that is absolute waste. The farmer or the user pays for the 100%, but he gets benefit only for 40%. So these things can be resolved through a nano platform, nanotechnology. So there is now emphasis on nano fertilizers, nano urea. There are only few already in the market, where the material is being designed in a way that when it is utilized in the plant, it will bind to the soil and stay with the roots of the plant for a longer period of time, allowing the plant to maximize its utility. Okay? And because it is bound to the soil very rigidly, during the excessive water irrigation or during rain, on-seasonal rain, etc., it will not flow away from the soil and continue to provide nutrition to the plant. That is the whole idea. Second mode in this is, rather than applying it to the roots, we also think of using it as a spray material, what is called the foliar application. We spray this material on the leaves.
Okay.
On the leaves. And there, in fact, the content of urea that is required is even less. You have certain amount of urea, mix it with huge amount of water, spray it on the leaves, and it gets absorbed over a period of time. So these are new modes of application of nano fertilizers in agriculture, and they will definitely be the farming practices of the future. And this can be extended to nano pesticides, fungicides, and all other things slowly. So again, we are going back to the same question again: developing the right material, nanomaterial,
yes,
for any use. Talk about energy. There is no scarcity of energy as such. Problem is you cannot store it.
Absolutely.
Storage is the big issue. Why is that? Because as per the conventional batteries that we use have a limitation. We have reached a material limitation there. Because of that, they can store energy for a given period of time. They can supply energy with certain amount of energy density, and beyond that, and they can be recharged for over a finite number of cycles. Beyond that, they will decay, degrade, and the efficiency will go down. Again, we have to go to nano platform there, make new electrolytes, new electrodes based on nanomaterials and nanocomposites, which will enhance the property, not allow these electrodes to degrade over a period of time, supply energy over a longer duration, cheaper to operate and utilize in day-to-day life, and then the acceptability in the market will be more. Now, for instance, now you see, we are trying to go to hybrid vehicles, electrical vehicles,
Yeah.
because the petrol is becoming very expensive. But the question is that a solution? The problem is, in the electric vehicles, we use a battery to run the battery. That's the source of energy.
Okay.
And you know the cost of the battery is almost comparable to the cost, 50% cost of the vehicle.
Oh.
And the battery has to be, recycled. Every 3 or 4 years you have to buy a new battery. So you have to spend equal amount of money to get your vehicle running in continuous mode. So this is an expensive proposition, and that is the reason why electric vehicles are not popular all over the world until now, because of the huge input cost of the consumer. So this is where again we need to look at alternative sources of storage of energy, where a battery once purchased should last lifelong for the vehicle, and we just keep recharging it every week or so. And you should what? Back to same question, develop new nanomaterial for it. So it can go on in every field. This is the story.
Yes.
So the key thing is new smart nanomaterials. Yeah.
Okay. So, how did you find? I mean, I'm talking about mentorship. How did you find it interesting, apart from your current profile?
See, the main problem where the limited activity in the area of nanoscience that you see not only India, all over the world, is
Yes.
because of there is a lack of information, there is a lack of proper knowledge with the potential user group, and that can only be changed significantly or to some extent by having mentorship programs where there is hand holding with the participants, and then they get a basic knowledge in this area and they are able to use it for the application they are looking forward to. So here, see, again, the mentorship cannot be a classroom kind of mentorship where you have some 60 students listening to a lecture, and that the information content is distributed in terms of reading materials and all. It has to be more interactive in nature, because nanoscience as such is not a discipline. It's an offshoot of many disciplines, like there is physics in it, there is chemistry, there is material science, there is polymer science there is optics there are so many different things there, and the blend is the what you call the nanoscience, nanotechnology. So definitely one cannot get all this information from one course or one particular program. So this is where a specific mentorship programs comes into picture, where the right component is taken from the right discipline. They are blended together to be an effective training program, and it is given to the participants in a structured manner so that they can get the information right from the beginning, assuming that there is no knowledge about nanoscience to start with, and develop it slowly over a period of time, and then they come to a stage where they can work comfortably with the nanomaterials and nanotechnology. And that is a doable program, and this is where the mentorship program comes into picture. So you need to have a suitable mentor. For this, we will do the hand holding over a period of 3 months to 6 months and guide the participants through the entire course and bring them to a platform where they have sufficient background and knowledge to go forward.
And I hope from this only people will come to know about that nanotechnology as well, because there are so many people who don't know about nanotechnology still.
Yeah, there is not knowing about nanotechnology per se is kind of excusable.
Yes.
The problem is a lot of people know only the half truth.
Absolutely.
That is the dangerous
Absolutely.
part of it. Then you try to use that information to solve a problem. Then you are bound to fail
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
because your information is not complete.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so that needs to be completely changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since you are mentoring the program, nanomaterial production and industrial certification, can you please throw some light on this?
Yeah. So now we have starting this new program on nano materials and its industrial applications, and focusing on converting the waste to treasure, waste to nano products.
Okay.
Now this requires that first the participants get sufficient knowledge about nanoscience. Nanoscience, not technology yet.
Yes.
What is nanoscience? What are the intricacies of these areas, fields? What are the saline points there? And then once that information is available, then we go to the next stage, which is the making these nanomaterials. That is extremely crucial. For any application, you need to have the right nanomaterial. So the user need to have a command over the synthesis of the nanomaterial. There are well-established protocols for developing different nanomaterials, and there are no two protocols are identical. Like for example, if you want to make nanoparticles of metals, it is going to be completely different from metal oxides or metal sulfide nanoparticles, or making quantum dots for semiconductor nanoparticles. All the protocols are all different, and they are very, very specific and extremely structured. So this has to be provided to the participants, and that's what we will do in the course.
Yes.
After they get the basic information, the synthesis protocols will be explained to them, and then how it can be done in the normal conditions in the laboratory, and what are the precautions and special care one should take while synthesizing these materials. The third part is the characterization. Once you have made the nanomaterial, how do you know that you have made a nanomaterial?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where there has to be routine characterization protocol again.
Okay.
So there is well-established characterization methods, and we will discuss all those things in the program, keeping in mind the requirements the regulating bodies also have imposed. There are already certain requirements of the regulatory bodies which are available in the public domain, and they say the nanomaterial must have these properties for it to be applicable to these fields, or like agriculture, food, etc. etc.
Yes.
So keeping these two things together, so characterization has to be done in a very systematic way. Okay, and the complete characterization is required. And after the characterization is over, the user now knows that the synthesis I know, a characterization I know. I am convinced now that my material is a nanomaterial. That completes the second part of it. Now we start the third most important part, going to its application, like we say waste to nanomaterial or waste to treasure.
Yes.
See, we do not realize that in our day-to-day activities, there is a lot of waste that we generate.
Definitely.
Okay, and most of it we just throw it away because we think this is useless. This is basically garbage. Now, using very simple methods and technology, and with a background that is already available, it's not difficult to convert many of these waste materials into very, very high-end nanomaterials. For instance, one can see this is the time in Delhi where there is there's a lot of noise about pollution coming from burning of agricultural waste in the agricultural fields in the nearby states, all these things. The simple solution to this can be this rice straw or the whatever husk or agricultural waste that is there in the field, which the farmers normally burn. That can be converted very nicely to a nanocellulose product. A nanocellulose has got huge amount of application in textiles, in packaging industry, even in making electronic products and base matrix material. And that's not very rocket science. It can be done very trivially in any laboratory or any industrial setup. And after a proper characterization, the nanomaterial is there for you to use. Okay, so there are many examples like this. For instance, digital waste. We are all using computers, laptops, mail systems, memory devices, cameras indiscriminately every day. And all these devices require an energy source, which is the battery. The battery has a finite life.
Yes.
You throw it away after it's used, like you take the remote of an AC.
Yes.
There are 2 pencil cells and you wash for 1 month, 2 months, then you just take it away, throw it away. But realize that alkaline battery that you have thrown away, if it is processed, it can give you a high-end product like zinc oxide or magnesium oxide.
Yes.
And magnesium oxide and zinc oxide, if properly purified and made into nanoform, is a very high-end product. Zinc oxide used in many medical formulations, personal care products. Also, zinc oxide is an excellent fertilizer for plants.
Okay.
And one battery which you have thrown away, and it's a zero cost actually, you procure it. It can give you several grams of zinc oxide if it's processed properly. And if you look at the catalog of the reliable suppliers of zinc oxide nanomaterials in the world, 1 gram costs something like 20,000-30,000 rupees.
Oh my God.
Zinc oxide, and which you have thrown away. So these are the examples of waste to treasure can be converted and can be adopted in our day-to-day life or by the industry to reduce pollution, because they are all polluting objects. Once you have used a battery, throw it away, it will go to landfill, decay, and all the chemicals spread and they contaminate our soil and water. So that is also eliminated. You have made a high-end product which can be used in agriculture, and it has got its own benefits. So likewise, you have several of examples, unlimited examples of waste to product conversion. But right now, what's happening, unfortunately, is there's no attention being paid to this.
Yes.
Okay,
That is very important.
because no one is making an initiative. Once the initiative starts, others will follow, and you will see there will be a floodgate in this area. Okay, so this is where the training program is going to be useful, because once the user knows or the participant knows that I can convert this waste to a product, and waste I am getting almost free, I am not paying anything for it, and I can convert it into a useful nanomaterial, then I will be able to make a business out of it very easily. Even for existing industries which are making batteries, you collect batteries, put the collection boxes all over the city, and you say you throw your battery, I'll give you 1 rupee. And each will throw it away. You say, okay, if you give 1 rupee, it's good for me. I'll throw it, I'll give it to you. Collect them,
Definitely.
process them, make beautiful nano product from there, and you can sell to market. Okay. Similarly, there are so many. I can list you many different examples. Carbon dots, for example, are beautiful photo mixed materials which can be used in display and sensors and for making other optoelectronic devices. And this can be made from the agricultural waste, like the kitchen waste, like banana peel, or, apple peel, and other things. They can be converted into beautiful quantum dots, carbon quantum dots, and they've got a huge amount of optoelectronic applications. And cheap to convert, it's not required very high technology. And once you optimize it, it's basically a routine process. Now, another area where we need to have much focus is the energy. Now, see, the conventional energy source now is our lithium-ion battery. Lithium-ion battery has reached its technological limit. We cannot stretch it beyond, because all our devices now are basically lithium-ion battery devices. Now, to enhance it, people are already going into new material. new material, you will be surprised to know the rare earths are actually a class of materials, about 10 elements in the periodic table, which have got very specific properties, very beautiful properties for developing energy devices, memories from there, and make very smart energy storage systems. And now 80% of the rare earth materials are being controlled by China. It all comes from China.
Okay.
Many other countries mine this material, but they cannot process it. They send it to China. China processes it and sends it back to them. This is the current state of affairs in this thing. And these materials will make very high-end batteries, memory system for computers, laptops, mobiles, etc. And you'll be surprised to know this is, the rare earth materials can be extracted from the waste of thermal power plants, which they throw away as fly ash.
Yeah.
They don't know where to throw it. It is just so much of fly ash that gets accumulated. So reprocessing of fly ash can give rise to these materials, high-end rare earth materials, which can be used for these high-end products, the high-end sensors, amplifiers, the military technology, and all these things. And no one is going to give it to us. We have to develop all these things ourselves.
I mean, it's a commendable job, seriously.
Yeah. So this is all these things available. But the question is, there is a lack of information, there is a knowledge gap there. So knowledge gap has to be bridged. And that is the whole objective of this course. From a completely ignorant person to a semi-informed person, all together, all of them can be guided or mentored into a platform where they realize that this potential exists. And these are the ways of doing it, and this can be done. So why not do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's it.
So, as you told us that we are working, we will make the products with the garbage and the waste products, right? So I think when we will sell that products, so the cost, what will be the cost? That will be
initially when you produce it, it may be higher because the volume of the product is small. As you try to increase the scale it up, then the cost of the product will go down.
Okay.
Eventually. And then, but still, the output or the performance of the product will be better than what you have what you are getting commercially at this point of time. Like for example, I was saying about the zinc oxide. Zinc oxide, which is available in the market right now, has got certain price, 10,000 rupees or something per kilo or something.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you are able to collect some few grams of zinc oxide from battery, and if you have a pilot plant where you produce them on a larger scale, the price will be highly competitive. And you get a far better product with a much lesser price.
Okay.
So that is the objective of the waste to treasure methodology of approaching things. And sooner or later we have to go. See, our development has to be sustainable development.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right now our development is a wasteful development, I would say. Nothing works more than 40%, 50% capacity. Nothing works more than that. So why not increase the potential of that by going into a new material domain, which is actually the nanomaterials. Because gone are the time when we could use 40% of the product and throw it away and buy a new one. This cannot be a development model for a long time to come. Yes. We must optimize our land, available water resources, available energy resources, available healthcare infrastructure. Within that, we have to provide relief to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where these programs and these structures and these the teaching methods of instruction, they will be useful, and that is one objective of this program, that use the technology appropriately so that we are on the way and the path to sustainable development. Okay.
It is really a very nice initiative. It's really a very nice initiative.
Thank Thank you.
So, thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your words. Thanks for coming over here. And thanks for your time. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.